We want to do our favorite movies of 2023.
And it's so good. It's a heartwarming story. I saw it twice in theaters. That's how much I loved it.
Man, every time I talk about this movie, I start to tear up. You know a movie is great when you're not that interested in the topic, but you're after the movie, that's all you're thinking about. This movie is one of my favorites of all time already.
Oh man, I watched it. I'd go as far to say as those are the two worst comic book movies I've seen to date.
Welcome to Catching a Vibe. This is episode 30. I'm your host, Drew. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Overrated. Willie B. How are we doing today?
Doing good. Getting ready for 2024.
I know, it's here. It's crazy, dude.
2023 went fast.
It did. It was a great year. Hope you all had a good New Year's. So, last year, we did our favorite movies of 2022. Now, we're going to do our favorite movies of 2023. We're doing top fives, baby. Get into it. Honorable mentions first.
Yes. 2023, very good year in film. A lot of people will have these movies in their top five, but I just had to give a mention because there were so many good movies this year. But movies like Saltburn, Air, Evil Dead Rise, Poor Things, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Scream 6, animation had a good year. TMNT and Super Mario Bros. All those movies didn't make my top five, but I wanted to give them an honorable mention just because that didn't mean that they weren't great.
Right.
Great year for 2023. Definitely the best since COVID, and one of the better years of cinema in our lifetime.
I 100% agree. I can't name a other year this stat.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. My honorable mention, I have Air. I thought that was really
great
cool.
Movie. Great soundtrack.
It was. It was cool seeing.
You love the 80s.
Right.
Cool seeing how the shoe came along, man.
Yeah.
You know.
I have Barbie too. I was like, I don't know if I want to see Barbie. I thought it was going to be too corny, but Ryan Gosling, he's becoming one of my favorite actors. He is hysterical in Barbie.
Yeah, I would put him top five for me for sure, if not top three. Anytime he touches a movie, you know it's gonna be good.
Yeah, speaking of him, he's doing that
Fall Guy.
Fall Guy. I think that looks good.
Looks interesting for sure.
I think I'm gonna see that.
Yeah.
And we talked about Super Mario. If you're under 8 years old, that's probably your favorite movie of all time.
Yeah. And if you're over 8, you'll still enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you played any Mario game, you'll enjoy that movie.
Right.
Because it kind of is a mix of just about anything Mario.
Yeah. It was just so cool because, there's moments where you're like, I feel like I'm playing the game right now.
Yeah.
Like the one where it's Donkey and Mario, they're, leveling up.
Yeah.
At the
end.
Yeah. I was like, dude, this literally looks like we're playing.
It's so much fun. And you get parts of Smash, you get parts of Mario Kart, you get parts of just about everything Mario. Luigi's Mansion kind of aesthetic when he hits the Dark Worlds.
They just knocked it out of the park with that movie.
Yeah. Kudos to Illumination.
Facts. So number 5.
All right, so we're diving right in. For me, I have 2 superhero movies in my top 5, and the first one is right here. That is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Good one.
Liked it a little bit more than Into the Spider-Verse. I thought it was more emotionally strong. And then I loved the different uses of animation styles based on which world you're in. So when you're in Gwen's world, you get that water paint aesthetic. When you're in Miles' world, you get the same animation style that we saw in Into the Spider-Verse. Just a wild ride. Cliffhanger obviously upset some people. I loved it.
Yeah.
It makes excitement for the third one even higher.
For sure.
And it makes you almost start creating the movie in your mind.
Yeah.
You see that and you're like, okay, how would you go from here?
Yeah.
I loved it. I'd go 9.5 on it. It was a great movie. Summer blockbuster. We kicked summer off with that one.
Yeah.
It's great to think about. That was the first weekend of June.
Was it?
Yeah. And that was a great way to start off the warm season, I'd say.
For sure. Yeah, that cliffhanger. I was like, dude, is there another hour of this movie?
Yeah.
Then Chris, I was like, wow, that is a way to end the movie.
That is a way.
Yeah.
That is one way.
All right. Number 5 for me, I'm going Transformers, Rise of the Beast. I was excited for this review.
Yeah.
Transformers is one of my favorite franchises. I grew up, every Transformers drops around my birthday.
Yeah.
The first 3 dropped around my birthday.
Yeah, because this one came out, second weekend? Or this one was June, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this was June, too.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was like late June. Though. I think it was like the 16th or something like that, like mid-late June.
So it was cool seeing that. Pete Davidson, I'm not the biggest fan, and I was like wondering how is he going to fit with Transformers, but Mirage was real good. I mean,
that was probably my favorite Transformer in the movie.
You think? I gotta go Bumblebee. Bumblebee's always been my guy.
Bumblebee's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought Pete Davidson brought a lot of life to the character. Great voice acting.
Oh, for sure.
Good to see.
Yeah. He just brought like the humor to Autobots that we haven't seen yet.
For sure. Yeah, I liked that one a lot. We actually got to see that one together.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that was a fun time. Because leading up to that, I actually binged all the Transformers because I wasn't sure if I'd seen them all. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew I'd seen the first few. I know I hadn't seen Bumblebee. It just, eluded me. And I watched them all. Bumblebee ended up being my favorite Transformers movie, actually. I love Bumblebee. But,
it's a good movie.
That was just a fun week. Yeah. Watching all of those movies and then going to the theater and watching what is arguably one of the best movies in the franchises. I thought, you have it in your top 5 for the year. I'd say that's, when coming to the franchise, there's some weak installments, but this is definitely one of the stronger ones.
It's definitely top 3 for me. It's hard to pass Dark of the Moon because I remember going to see it in theaters as a kid. And I was like, dude, this is the greatest movie of my life.
Oh my God.
That's how I felt as a kid. Was it better than that than the first Transformers? Just was awesome too. It just
Dark of the Moon is actually my favorite of the first 3.
Yeah. Dark of the Moon, same here.
I remember I saw Dark of the Moon was one of the ones I saw before this summer. Mm-hmm. I went to theaters when it came out with like a group of family. Like it was like Luke, Cole. Like it was a solid group. I think it was for one of the. I think it was for, how you said it comes out around your birthday. Yeah. Luke's birthday's in June. I think it was for Luke's birthday back when we were youngins.
Yeah. Long time ago for us now.
Dark of the Moon was a good ride, but yeah, I mean, the newest installment was obviously a great watch, and we discovered the D-box seats. We still got to do those.
Yeah, we do.
We have to do those. Sure. We have to do those. We'll have to figure out what movie.
What movie?
We're sitting in D-box.
Yes. That's our goal for this
2024
year.
one D-box movie.
Number 4.
Number 4. This is where my second superhero movie comes in. So, like I said, it's in a year with movies like I named in my honorable mentions. Some people will be upset to put comic book movies here because comic book movies are kind of in a lull, especially the MCU.
Right.
DCEU just ended, which is crazy to think about, and James Gunn will hopefully carry that on strong. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is my number 4 of the year. This is the strongest emotional presence I've ever felt in a Marvel movie. Some of the best action you get in a Marvel movie. Great story, great character development, great way to wrap up the Guardians story, as far as we know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want any more Guardians without James Gunn. I think I'm good with it, wrapping up with the trilogy. Because it's right now one of my favorite trilogies of all time.
For sure.
But Guardians 3 was, Marvel for a while, every time they had a movie coming out, the excitement level was there.
Oh.
You were counting down the days.
Through the roof.
Yeah.
We were all excited.
Especially movies like Endgame, Infinity War, and No Way Home. But it's kind of hit a lull lately, Like, you're like, okay, another Marvel movie's coming out. Like, I'm going to go see it, but the excitement level, like, there's no
countdown. Not going to see opening night.
There's no countdown to it anymore, And this one gave me hope that there's still a chance the MCU can turn it around. It sucks that after this, the Marvels was a little underwhelming, and before this Quantumania, I enjoyed it more than most, but it was still underwhelming at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Guardians, though, gave me hope that the MCU can turn it around. It just sucks that the guy that made this movie
is going to DC.
Yeah. Which I'm excited for DC, because I do enjoy DC. I'm excited to see what James Gunn does, because I think James Gunn is a wizard when it comes to comic movies.
Peacemaker.
Yeah.
That show is hilarious.
But it is sad to see him go.
It is.
I think he was the best director we had on the MCU roster.
Him and the Russos are probably the 2 best.
So we'll see what they do without him. Like I said, I hope they kind of leave Guardians alone, because this was I would say, a perfect way to end it.
Oh,
I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. I'd go 9.6.
Yeah.
But this was a perfect way to end that trilogy.
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree. So, number 4 for me, I have Creed 3. I'm a big Creed, Rocky lover, love the franchise. Michael B. Jordan's one of my favorite actors. He killed it in his first time directing a movie. I was very impressed by how.
Yeah, this one for me, isn't my favorite Creed movie. I still think I like the first one a little more, but I still
Same.
loved this movie. Like you said, Michael B. Jordan did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few things I wasn't a fan of, like the realism factor sometimes with Jonathan Majors getting his shot, getting on TV and calling him out with Stephen A. Smith when nobody knows who this guy is.
Right.
I didn't know if that was super realistic. Then the cage fight style,
the anime.
yeah, it was. I don't know how I felt about it, but at the end of the day, it was still a great movie, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that chemistry between Adonis and Bianca, then Dame.
Yeah,
they did so well. It sucks seeing Jonathan Majors because he's a great actor.
Yeah,
and the mistake he did.
Yeah, you always hate somebody with that much talent doing something so stupid to ruin things.
Right.
And obviously, jumping back to even the MCU, he was supposed to be the next big thing there, and now, you were getting kind of excited with what you saw from Quantumania, even though the movie wasn't great.
Yeah.
Him and Paul Rudd were obviously the takeaways, and to see him, now he's canned from Marvel because of what he did, which what he did was wrong.
Oh, no doubt.
But it just sucks to see somebody throw away such a talent.
Such a talent. Yeah. For Creed 3, I'm gonna give it 8.4.
8.4.
Yep. 3. Top 3 now.
Here we go. So number 3 for me, I'm gonna go. This one isn't one you would typically see in my top 5 because I guess it's more on the comedy side. Comedies are always fun, but they're not usually the best
a great story.
Yeah.
Yep.
But this one had a great story. It was based on a true story, actually. Great cast, and that's Dumb Money. Dumb Money for me was just a dumb good time.
Yeah.
It was like a 90, 100-minute burn. Super well paced. There was no flaws there. Paul Dano.
Mm-hmm. Great actor.
Anytime you get Paul Dano on the screen, you're going to get something good.
No doubt.
He delivered once again. It's the type of movie where I left the theater and I was asking my friends, like, "Do you guys want to start a short squeeze on a stock?" It was It was like it inspired you to do something that you probably shouldn't, but it was still fun. Like I said, Paul Dano was in it. Pete Davidson was great as a supporting character. Nick Offerman, Seth Rogen, Shailene Woodley. When I say there was a stacked cast, it was stacked. And everybody played their role to a T. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed Dumb Money. I feel like it's a movie that kind of went under the radar this year. I feel like a lot of people didn't see it. And it's a little disappointing because it was
really
worth
good
the watch. And I'd go 9.7 on it.
9.7? Yeah. Number 3 for me, I have Across the Spider-Verse. Big Spidey guy, You know me, I love Marvel superhero movies. I like the original a little bit better.
That's fair.
I think this one's really good, though. Like, the animations, I was a fan of. It's just crazy how much work they put into these movies.
Yeah.
Like, didn't they say there's different, scenes in different movies or something like that? Different shots.
Well, then they even, they take live action stuff with Childish Gambino. They take Lego content from a kid.
A kid create a scene.
When I say, I love the animation styles, and I only pointed out Gwen and Miles, that just scratches the surface.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing all of the different variations of Spider-Man was awesome, too.
Yeah. When I saw Toby and Andrew, the scenes of them, I was like, they are going all in with this.
You get to see them all point at each other.
Yeah.
When they said, "Stop, Spider-Man."
Yeah.
Goated. So good.
Yeah. For Spider-Man, I'm going to go 8.6. 8.6 for Spider-Man.
Okay.
So number 2, top 2.
Number 2, I'm going The Holdovers. This is a holiday movie without throwing up green and red all over you. So it's not like your Christmas Story, your Grinch, your Christmas Vacation, which I love all of those movies.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah, you're not bashing it.
I'm just saying this is a holiday movie that I feel like could be watched any time of the year. Any time of the year you can watch this. It's a movie I'll probably stick to November or December.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a good Thanksgiving watch.
Yeah.
But it's the best way to describe it is you go to your parents' house and your mom gives you a hug by the fire and just says, "Let it all out," and you're crying. Mm-hmm. It's a movie that 1 second it's pulling your heart out and stomping all over it, then it finds a way to come back around and wrap around you with a huge hug from behind. Mm-hmm. It's an emotional roller coaster. What it is Paul Giamatti's character is this grumpy old professor. Dominic Sessa is our main character. He's a student at this boarding school, and he is one of 5 students that don't have anywhere to go over Christmas break, so they're held over. They're the holdovers. And 4 of the students end up getting, picked up by one of the rich students' dads and going on a skiing trip. But Dominic Sessa's parents don't even have the time to pick up the phone, so he doesn't get to go. And it's just this journey of him, Paul Giamatti, the professor, and Divine Joy Randolph. She plays the head chef at the school. She just lost her son in war, so they all have like this background, of just sadness, and it's just them becoming unlikely friends. Mm-hmm. And it's so good. It's a heartwarming story. I saw it twice in theaters. That's how much I loved it. And I can't wait for this one to hit my collection, my shelf. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go 9.8 on it. 9.8. But yeah, The Holdovers is one of those movies that I recommend to everyone as a feel-good movie. And yeah, there's not much more to say. Paul Giamatti deserves a lot of respect for this movie as far as the Academy goes. Mm-hmm. In a year where you have your Cillian Murphys and your Leonardo DiCaprios, and even in my opinion, we'll get into one more actor with my number 1. But Paul Giamatti, I truly believe at least deserves a nomination for Best Actor with his performance in this movie.
Really?
That's how great he was, in my opinion.
He's had an underrated career, honestly.
Yeah, I love Paul Giamatti. Anytime he's in a movie, I've said this for like 3 guys, but again, Giamatti he's great at portraying emotion. He's great at face acting. Yeah. And I mean, Fred Claus is one of his cheesier movies. I love Fred Claus, but
one of my favorite Christmas movies.
It's one of his cheesier movies, and he even puts in a good performance there. I mean, him and Vince Vaughn were awesome in that one. But
great duo.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti blew me away with The Holdovers, and I'm just hoping he gets a little bit of recognition at the Academy. I'm not saying he should win the award, but I definitely think he should at least be nominated.
Respect. So number 2 for me, I saw this movie a couple days ago, Iron Claw. Just
so good.
Man, every time I talk about this movie, I start to tear up because how so heartbreaking this movie is. Like, I'm not the biggest wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I've been watching clips of these guys wrestle the past 48 hours.
Yeah.
You know a movie is great when you're not that interested in the topic, but you're after the movie, that's all you're thinking about.
You're buying books about the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe the performance Zac Efron had in this movie. I thought it was so cool to have it shot in the perspective of the only brother that's still alive. Yeah. I saw some people were like, I kind of wish we saw all of the brothers. Yeah. But I mean, how true could it be if we did that instead of having the only one alive say his perspective of the family?
I think it's going off the heartbreaking part. It's crazy that they made a movie about this family and they actually left out a brother.
Yeah, that is the craziest thing.
It would have made it seem unrealistic. That's how sad the story is. That it doesn't even feel real. Right. They thought it'd be overkill, so they kind of mixed the brother they left out with Mike's character. Mm-hmm. But yeah, dude, when you talk about emotion, this is as emotional as it gets.
That final scene, dude. Yeah. I almost let loose.
Yeah, that's when the floodgates open.
Yeah. I had some brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And the kids, I'll be your brother.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's so sad. But
tears me up every time.
So good. So good.
Yeah, and one of my favorite scenes of any movie this year is when Ric Flair's in the promo for him and Kevin's fight. Yeah. He's like, Daddy's boy, and Kevin's just training. Yeah. It was great, dude. Yeah. This movie is one of my favorites of all time already. Yeah. I'm so tempted to go see it again.
I'm up there.
That's how great it was. There. So for Iron Claw, I'm going to give it a 9-1.
9-1?
9-1.
Love to see it.
Yes.
Love to see
great.
It. So that takes me to my number 1, and that is the Iron Claw. Yep. There was a lot of anticipation going into this movie for me. I watched the trailer over 100 times, and that's not an exaggeration.
That is no joke because I went over to Will's house to shoot a pod with him, and I think we watched it 5 times.
Yeah, it's a trailer that I almost put on repeat on YouTube. When I was talking about, I'll get to another actor with my number 1, Zac Efron was exactly what I was talking about. Mm-hmm. I think Zac Efron, it sucks because I don't think he'll win, but he is my pick for Best Actor. Mm-hmm. He made me bawl like a baby. Yeah. And it wasn't just him. Got to give a shout out to that entire cast. Jeremy Allen White was great.
Yeah.
Holt McCallany was awesome as well. Great supporting characters. All of the brothers did a great job. Stanley Simons. But that movie, you talked about the final scene. I think the last 15 minutes, because the last 15 minutes, we get one of the suicides. We get his depiction of heaven, and then we get that scene.
The heaven
those
scene.
Those back to back are like taking a 1, 2, 3 off the jaw, dude.
It's like you're in the ring with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
He's knocking you out with tears.
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually went and saw this movie again yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah. I had to. My buddy texted me at like 10. He's like, hey, I'm going to see the 10:45 show in the Iron Claw. And I was like, I don't want to invite myself, but if you have an extra spot in the car, I'll go. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm on my way picking you up right now. And I was like, sweet.
Hell yeah.
First movie of 2024 is the Iron Claw. One of the last movies of 2023 and one of the first movies of 2024.
Hey.
But
what a start.
This is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is a 10 out of 10 movie. Because even, the story's captivating, based on a true story, super sad. The first hours feel good, the second hour rip your heart out and stomp all over it. But it's also technically stunning. It's beautiful. The soundtrack's great. Even when it's not the commercialized, Tom Sawyer and Don't Fear the Reaper, it's the melancholy tones when a brother passes.
Yeah.
They captured the aesthetic of the 70s and 80s and what wrestling was very, very well.
Right.
My buddy who's super big into wrestling said that the Sportatorium was spot on. And just a huge shout out to Sean Durkin for taking this project on. And in my opinion, I think it's A24's best movie to date.
That's a director, right?
Sean Durkin, yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching an interview of the cast, and he's like, dude, I was like the biggest fan of Von Erickson. I was like, dude, I have to make a movie.
You could tell there was passion behind this project.
Yeah, no
you
doubt.
could tell that there was heart. You could tell that it was more than just, I want to tell their story. I want to tell their story because I was you could tell when somebody's fan. Another prime example of this, it didn't crack my top 5, but Godzilla -1, you could tell that Takashi Yamazaki, the director of that film, had passion behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what you see in the Iron Claw. You see that it was more than just making a movie.
Right.
It was, I love what this story is, and it should be told because it's heartbreaking, but it needs to be known.
I can't argue your number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Number 1 for me, I'm going Guardians of the Galaxy. I would put Iron Claw at 1, but I don't want to cry all the time.
Yeah.
And Guardians of the Galaxy, how can you hate Guardians? They are just a great trilogy, dude. Maybe the greatest ever.
I would go as far to say it's greatest comic book trilogy for sure.
Yeah.
There's trilogies like, Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, Godfather. There's big ones that would come to argue against all time, but
no doubt.
Guardians, the thing I would say about Guardians is it's the perfect comic book movie for somebody that's not a comic book fan. You can, if you're going to start somewhere in comic book movies without being a fan of the movies or being a fan of comics or being a fan of even just the concept of comic book movies, Guardians is always a good start. My buddy Turbo, Turbo.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the first Guardians is one of the only comic book movies he's seen, and he said, I enjoyed it.
No doubt.
Guardians is a movie for everyone.
Yeah. I've never read a Guardians comic. Yeah. And I'm a big superhero fan, but that just shows, you don't have to read their comics to love these characters. Yeah. Because the Guardians were kind of laughed at through the comics. They weren't the big names.
Yeah, I remember when they announced it and that it was coming out in 2014, people were like,
what is this?
Why are we making a Guardians of the Galaxy movie?
Right.
And then it blew people away.
Yeah.
It blew people away.
I love their fan favorites.
Yeah, I love all 3 of them. And the third installment was, like I said,
perfect send-off.
I
think. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm giving a 9.3. So,
can't forget, first cuss word.
Too. And it was perfect.
If you're looking for an F-bomb.
Open the fucking door!
If you're looking for an F-bomb in a comic book movie, check out Guardians 3.
For real. So just a recap, Transformers, I have an 8.3, Creed 3, 8.4, Across the Spider-Verse, 8.6, Iron Claw, 9.1, and Guardians of the Galaxy, 9.3.
Mine goes Spider-Verse 9.5, Guardians 3, 9.6. Goes up by 0.1 every time. Dumb Money 9.7, Holdovers 9.8, and then we take a big leap. Iron Claw, I'm going 10 out of 10. It's my movie of the year, and I've already seen it twice in theaters. Might do a third time. Why not?
Hey, I might join you for this.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So now, you want to do the most disappointing movie of the year or the most underrated?
Let's go disappointing. We'll start with the bad and end with the good.
Right.
So most disappointing movie for me, there was 3 that I wrote down here. 2 were disappointing, but my expectations weren't as high as they were for the other one. So I'm going to say that's my most disappointing. That's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. First 3 movies, obviously fantastic. 4th one could be better, but it's not horrible at the end of the day. The 5th one's just the worst one. I had a lot of excitement going into this one. See what Harrison Ford did at an older age. See what they did with Indiana Jones.
He loves that character too, by the way.
And you could tell, but with some spotty CGI, the story wasn't very captivating. And then they add the mix of time travel, which I was not a fan of. It just led to an average film, a 5 out of 10 for me. Yeah. The other 2 movies I listed I thought were worse movies, which were Aquaman and Lost Kingdom and Blue Beetle.
Right. Blue Beetle is so bad.
Yeah. I'd go as far to say as those are the 2 worst comic book movies I've seen to date. I haven't seen everything. Like, I know I haven't seen Steel, the movie with Shaq from the 90s.
No.
But as far as what I've seen, those are the 2 worst. And when I say as far as what I've seen, like, I've seen all of the MCU, the DCU.
Right.
The big ones, all the Batman movies. But yeah, those two were pretty bad. But Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is probably my most disappointing one, just because my excitement level was a little higher than those 2.
So for my most disappointing movie, it's Ant-Man, Quantumania. I was so excited for this movie, dude.
Yeah.
Kang.
Yeah.
Finally seeing Kang after the hype from Loki.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, please be good. And the movie just fell apart, in my opinion. Like, when Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors wasn't on the scene, I just did not like it.
Yeah, it was
messy.
I enjoyed it more than most. Like, I still think I gave it like a 7. But I get what you mean. It definitely was at its best when Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors were on screen. I love Paul Rudd.
Oh, I do too.
But
Great guy.
It sucks to see too, like we mentioned with Creed 3, obviously what's going down with what was supposed to be the next big bad. Interesting to see where Marvel goes from here.
Right.
But yeah, Quantumania, at the end of the day, it was underwhelming, but I still enjoyed it enough to like it more than some of the movies we've been getting in the MCU.
Right.
So it wasn't my most disappointing, but it definitely was a letdown.
Yeah.
It definitely was a letdown.
I'm not saying I hate the movie.
Yeah.
I just had so much
excitement level. Yeah, same with Indiana Jones. Like, Indiana Jones isn't the worst movie, but where my excitement level was and where it fell were a big difference.
Yeah. So Ant-Man, I'd probably give it like a 7-1.
7-1.
Yeah.
That's about where I'm at.
Right.
Yeah.
So the most underrated movie.
For this one, I'm gonna go Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin.
So this is
Batista, baby.
Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan's newest movie. M. Night Shyamalan, this is more of a thriller. He does most of his movies in horror or thrillers. And this is one that I was really, really happy with when I left the theaters. I really dug deep to pick this for my underrated because this movie did come out the first week of February. So I was trying to not, be recency biased, and I'm picking the most underrated movie of the year.
Yeah. So
I went back, and when I saw this one, I was like, you know what? I know the scores aren't low, but from word of mouth, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on this one. And for me, I thought it was an 8.5.
Yeah.
I thought I left the theater with an 8.5. I'd still stand by it. Not a lot of replay value on this one because obviously once you see the ending, that's the exciting part.
Right.
It's one of those movies where.
Gotcha.
But I would definitely watch it again. But for all the people, the big takeaway for this movie is all the doubters of Batista saying, "Oh, you couldn't do anything that's not a comedy or a comic book movie."
Right.
He shut them up with this film. Great performance from Batista. I don't think it was like it's going to be anything award-winning or even nominating, but for him and where he's at in his career,
that was a big step.
That was a big step. And I think it's going to lead to big projects.
For sure. So mine, you might flame me for this. I'm going Anyone But You.
Anyone But You.
Rom-com,
Okay.
Sydney Sweeney, my girl Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell. That dynamic between those two. They they killed it.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know,
For sure.
it's been a long time since we've gotten like a pretty good comedy movie that has made me laugh a lot. I was like, I don't know if I want to see this. Saw it, and I was like, that was a good rom com. Like it gave me that feeling of like the early 2000s.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I went and saw this one, I enjoyed it a lot. My biggest gripe was the third act with the wedding and the sister, Sydney Sweeney's character leaving the wedding because she's having a bad day. I don't see that being very realistic. I'd be pretty pissed off if one of my siblings left my wedding because they were having a bad day. And I would expect the same if I was like, "Hey, Maddie, I'm having a bad day. I think I'm just going to take a walk." I'd want her to smack me and say, "Hell no!"
Right.
But
this is my day.
Yeah, that's the day you're supposed to be selfish. But when you're the bride and groom, not when you're a sibling.
Yeah.
But yes, it definitely felt like 2000s comedy hit for the most part. I thought Sydney Sweeney had a couple scenes that were a little flat, but when her and Glenn Powell were on the screen together, there was a great dynamic. I thought they were both I thought she was at her best when Glenn Powell was there. I thought Glenn Powell stole the show. I thought Glenn Powell turned in a great performance.
He was great.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's still a fun, hour 45?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd probably give it a 7.6, 7.7.
Yeah, I think I gave that one a high 6.
Just under 8.
I think I gave it a high 6, but I was sitting in that 7.5 to 8 range until that
enjoyable movie. Yeah. Like when it comes out on streaming, I'd probably watch it again.
For sure.
All right. The last topic we have our favorite scene of a movie in 2023.
For me, I'm gonna go from Godzilla -1. Like I said, this movie was incredible. Takashi Yamazaki, you could tell he poured everything he had into it. When the credits roll, his name was by a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. He was like director and then director of 30 different things.
He did everything.
Yeah, I mean, and then the low budget, the $15 million budget, and he said, "I wish I even had that much." It's crazy what they were able to do with a $15 million budget when projects like what Marvel's getting are $300 million budgets, and they're not nearly as good. But this is a little bit of a spoiler because it's towards the end of the movie. It's the final battle with Godzilla. Our main character Koichi, he's a kamikaze pilot during the war, but he kind of flakes out, lands at this camp that fixes planes and says his plane's broken when it wasn't. They found nothing was wrong with it. So he's kind of being shunned, and then Godzilla attacks this little island. This is the beginning. Godzilla attacks this little island, and he's the only one that survives. Yeah. So he goes back to Tokyo, and people are like, "Aren't you supposed to be a kamikaze?" And he's getting shunned, like you were supposed to die in war for your country. Mm-hmm. So guilt eats at him throughout the entire film. Shame eats at him throughout the entire film. He has these nightmares of both not finishing the job, but Godzilla, and he makes it his goal to defeat Godzilla. Well, he gets his chance at the end of the movie. The sound design in this final scene is why I love this scene so much, but it goes from this song, kind of stops, and it's silent. Mm-hmm. And then you just hear his plane in the distance, and it gets louder and louder as it comes in. And to the point where, obviously, now the plane is the focus of the shot, and he flies it into Godzilla's mouth, and the plane explodes, kills Godzilla. Yeah. Like I said, spoiler on this whole scene. Skip past it if you don't want that. But the sound design was great. Him getting his chance to fix everything that the entire movie built up was, tear jerking. Mm-hmm. And then you see a parachute in the distance, and everyone at the beginning of the movie wanted him dead. They were like, "You were supposed to die in war." But now, as the movie has gone on, everybody's like heartbroken that he actually did it. But then they see him alive, and they're happy he's alive because he made up for his mistakes, but still is there to cheer on at the end. It was just a beautiful scene, and you don't expect that much emotion when you go into a Godzilla film.
Right. You're like, I'm just here to see.
You're just here to see the Tokyo get wrecked.
Right.
And I think that's what blew me away with Yamazaki's, depiction of Godzilla. It felt like a lot like the original, but with more heart and was still unique in a lot of ways. Yeah. But that scene right there, it's the more you talk about it, the more you want to rewatch it. Mm-hmm. Now it's in Japanese, so you have to read English subtitles. Yeah. I feel like that's going to deter a lot of people, which sucks. But if If you're okay with subtitles, it's worth the watch.
I might have to challenge my brain and
Yeah,
watch it.
yeah. It's worth it, man.
Okay. For my favorite scene, there's two that come to mind. One's from the Iron Claw, the Ric Flair,
Yeah.
from Oh Daddy's Boy,
Yeah. So
and
good.
Kevin training. That was just the music. Like, it was just get me fired up.
Yeah.
Like, I want to fight Ric Flair.
It was like a Rocky training montage almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And my favorite is from Guardians 3, the No Sleep in Brooklyn. That fight scene.
Oh, it's so good.
It was just great. Dude.
Yeah. Like you said,
The
choreographed so well. The slow motion shots, the music.
Yeah.
Best fight scene in the MCU.
Long
There's a
time.
lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a long time. I mean, it stacks up though with the best.
Oh, it
I mean,
does.
You think of the
No
best,
doubt.
like you got Civil War when it's Iron Man versus Cap. It's right up there with it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll ask you another question. The last one, I promise this time. What is the movie you're most excited for this year?
As far as original films go, Nosferatu. I guess it's not original. It's based off, the original Nosferatu, but it's been a while since we've seen Nosferatu. It came out in 1922, so it's 100.
I've never even heard of this.
It's over 100 years old. It's a silent film, silent vampire film. Remember? Have you ever seen SpongeBob? Remember the Hatchling and Slasher episode?
Oh!
And
that?
when the lights are flicking, and he goes Nosferatu, and it's the vampire.
Oh, that
flipping
does
the lights.
ring a
That's
bell, yeah.
Nosferatu.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm glad I could make that
Yeah.
connection for you with SpongeBob. That's gonna
Shout out SpongeBob.
Yeah, when you're born in the late '90s. But Nosferatu. I'm really excited for this one because Bill Skarsgård is, he's going to be Nosferatu. I loved what he did with Pennywise. Robert Eggers is in the director chair, and obviously Robert Eggers has made a name for himself with his first 3 movies. Obviously, I love The Northman.
Yeah.
More
Not the
than you,
biggest fan.
But Robert Eggers has made a name for him in these like dark horror thriller epics, and I'm excited to see what he does with this vampire movie. Other movies I'm excited for: Terrifier 3. That's dumb slasher fly. It's a Christmas movie this year.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see, and then obviously, Marvel's only project this year is Deadpool 3. But as a fan that says Deadpool 1 and 2 is 2 of my favorite comic book movies ever.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do, especially with the return of the man himself.
Yeah. Hugh.
Yeah.
Well, that's my most
Yeah.
anticipated movie of the year. Marvel, please don't mess it up.
I know.
Please don't.
Yeah, I'm hoping Disney doesn't have too much to do with this. Let creative people be creative.
Yes. Let Ryan do Ryan things.
That's all I can say with this film is when people ask me how excited are you for Deadpool 3, I'm just like, I hope they let creative people be creative.
Right.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Let the people that know what they're doing do it. Let them do their thing. But we'll see. With it being the only Marvel movie, I'm kind of excited even more for it because that means
It's like they're
more of
putting
a
all their
focus.
chips into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Instead of their usual 5 movies, 3 series in
Right.
1 year, and
Right.
90% of them are lackluster.
Yeah. No doubt.
So I'm excited to see. Gotta wait for this one.
I know.
Well, I was just talking about how the countdown isn't really a thing for Marvel, but it's almost back with Deadpool 3 because I think
Right.
it could be, the best movie since Guardians. One of the better ones since we ended the first saga.
Yeah.
But
With Endgame.
yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Lily, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for coming on. my
Thanks
guy.
for having me, brother.
I appreciate you. If you guys go check out Fast Times with Willie B, the best
Appreciate
movie
it.
reviews in the game.
Appreciate it.
Like, come on now. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.